Our topic for today is peace bonds tax case. In this episode, we will discuss the Supreme Court's decision affirming its ruling promulgated last January 13, 2015, nullifying the BIR's bid to collect a tax of 20% on the peace bonds. Join us today as we showcase treasury bonds, deposit substitute, and peace bonds, and the 20% withholding tax in government securities. I am Dr. Victor B. Andriga, and this is Tax TV, a taxpayer's guide to Philippine taxation. The Supreme Court, in an en banc ruling, ordered the Bureau of Treasury to pay a combined $5 billion to holders of poverty eradication and alleviation certificates or peace bonds, plus 6% annual interest from 2011, bringing to close a 5-year-old case that pitted the government against the country's biggest banks. The Supreme Court, in its final ruling, nullified a BIR bid to collect a tax of 20% on the peace bonds. The bonds first issued on October 18, 2001 are zero coupons, and the heart of the case was whether or not they were subject to 20% withholding tax that's due from government-issued bonds. RCBC, in behalf of Code NGO, won at the primary market in 2001, had argued that the government could not tax the bonds because at the time of issues, it was limited to only 19 lenders. Under existing rules for bonds sold in the secondary market, 20 or more investors are considered deposit substitute. Public borrowing that carry a 20% withholding tax on October 2011. When the peace bonds materialized, the Supreme Court ordered the Bureau of Treasury to pay $4.966 billion it withheld as tax. However, the Department of Finance and the Bureau of Treasury sought the Supreme Court's ruling. The Supreme Court said the Bureau of Treasury remains obstinate in its refusal to release the monies and exhibited utter disregard and defiance of the court. The petitioners' bank were BDO, Metrobank, Planters Bank, Philippine Veterans Bank, PBCom, Bank of Commerce, China Bank, and PNB. The tax issue on the peace bond focused on the following. Will the Philippine government honor a promised commitment? And was the commitment wrong from the start? In an October 17 ruling, the BIR decided not to honor the promise. The interest aggregate to $24.3 billion would be paid at the end of the 10th year and tax-free. The $24.3 gross interest would be part of the $35 billion the National Treasury was supposed to pay the investors in full. Because the peace bonds were sold tax-free in 2001, investors found the bonds deal attractive. The past administration said the deal was wrong from the very beginning. It said that financial rule applies to all and the Philippine government interest must be protected. Hence, the 20% withholding tax must be deducted. The bond issued by the Bureau of Treasury should be considered deposit substitute and is therefore taxable. So the 8 banks involved sought the ruling of the Supreme Court. Normally, investing in government-issued debt notes are risk-free, and the zero-coupon peace bonds are no exceptions. In zeros, an industry lingo for bonds means clients on a one-time, big-time basis let their money slip with the debt issuer. In this case, the Philippine government and receive all payment and interest only on the maturity date of the bonds. This is Tax TV. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Peace bonds, not a deposit substitute. On January 13, 2015, the Supreme Court ultimately put to rest the issues over the classification of poverty eradication and alleviation certificates, or peace bonds, as deposit substitute and subject to taxation. Peace bonds are 10-year zero-coupon treasury bonds issued by the Bureau of Treasury designed to fund project-accredited NGO. It has big discounts or at a price substantially lower than its face of debt value. The interest and face value shall be paid on the maturity date itself. Treasury bonds are government securities which matured beyond 1 year. At present, there are 5 maturities: 2 years, 5, 7, 10, and 20 years. These are sold in face value or origination. The yield is represented by the coupons expressed as percentage of the face value on per annum basis, payable semi-annually. Deposits, substitutes, as defined in the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, is an alternative form of obtaining funds from the public other than deposits through the issuance, endorsement, or acceptance of debt instruments for the borrower's own account for the purpose of pre-lending or purchasing of receivables and other obligations. Word public means 20 or more investors. In BIR Ruling 370-2011, it opened that peace bonds are deposit substitute and subject to 20% withholding tax regardless of the number of purchasers. BIR further issued Rule DA 378-2011 dated October 7, 2011 that the withholding tax shall be imposed not only on RCBC but to all code NGO bidders issued by the Bureau of Treasury and subsequent holders. In summary, the Supreme Court did not consider the peace bonds a deposit substitute and therefore not subject to 20% withholding tax, and the BIR 370-11 is void because it completely disregarded the 20 or more rule that created distribution for government instruments. Joining us today in Tax TV is Mr. Sixto C. Makasait, Executive Director of Code NGO, to share with us his recollections on the Peace Bonds project. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What is this Code NGO all about? Could you explain and give some what is really behind this organization?
Code NGO po is a network of CSO networks, civil society organization networks. We have, as our members, 6 national CSO networks and 6 regional networks, and there are around 1,600 organizations belonging to these networks. We were established in 1991, so we're now 25 years old, for the purpose of strengthening the capacity of our members and also for promoting development in the country and in the local areas.
What is really this peace bond all about? And are they issued by the Treasury or Treasury notes?
Yung peace bonds, so the full name actually is Poverty Eradication Certificate Bonds or peace bonds. And they were, in 2001, Code NGO bidded for treasury notes, zero coupon, 10-year treasury notes. And then through the RCBC. And then with RCBC, we resold it at the private capital market. And through that transaction, the proceeds amounted to around 1.4 billion pesos.
Wow, 1.4 billion.
And this was, we put up a separate foundation, the Peace and Equity Foundation, or PEF, to manage the funds.
Yeah.
And through the prudent management nga ho, PEF, they've been already in the past 10 years or 11 years now, 15 years, they've all been able to support more than 1,000 projects with more than 1 billion pesos. And at the same time, they've been able to grow the endowment fund from 1 billion pesos to around 2 billion pesos now.
Wow. So actually, it already 2 billion was almost the exact amount that was invested here in the peace bond. So what is the exact nature of underlying the securities which comprise the peace bond?
These were treasury notes issued by the government, and they were called zero coupon bonds because unlike the normal bonds where the government pays out every semester or every year, these were they're called zero coupon because for the period of 10 years there was no payment by the government, and then at the end of the 10 years, so this was in 2011. It was the only time that the government paid the bond
So
holders.
meaning to say, it's really 10 years, and during the 10 years, you cannot withdraw the money?
No.
So
but the bonds were tradable also. It was being traded.
How about the interest?
The interest was just kept by, because the concept nga here was that also to enable government to save on the cash flow. They called it the one-time big time. So instead of paying,
one-time big time.
Instead of paying out every semester or every year, they paid out only once at the end of the 10 years, the maturity.
So it's really a big investment because 10 years you cannot get the money, and then you get also the interest after only the end of the term, which is 10 years.
Yes, po.
Now, who are the original proponents of this peace bond? Is there any foreign origin or concept of this type of security?
There were many countries now that were doing the zero coupon bonds. It was cash management strategy daw. But in the Philippines, this was the first time. After this, there were several others that were issued. But this was the first time that there were zero coupon bonds in 2001.
Because usually when you say treasury bills or treasury notes, these are the usual investments. How was Code NGO able to create an endowment fund from this peace bond?
It was really the resale, so after the buying it from government and bidding, it was sold to the investors, to the bondholders, through the private capital market. So it was the difference between the trading gain. Basically, it was a trading gain.
Are investors only private, or government corporations are also allowed to invest in the peace bond?
I understand, sir, that at the time, Land Bank and DBP, which are government banks,
so they bought
are also GSEDs, as they also buy treasury notes. So they also submitted bids. But of course, the government only they gave it only to the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
So in fact, the interest that the government paid for these bonds was 12.75%. At that time, 2 weeks before the bidding, the similar term, 10-year bonds, got around 13.5 or so. So because some are saying now this is overpriced, but they're saying no. If you compare the 12.75% per annum, it seems high now because now we have very low interest. But in 2001,
during the
going rate was 13. The 2 weeks before, the Treasury did a similar bid, and they got 13.5 or 13.4 interest. So
Yeah.
in fact, this was more than 0.5% lower. So government was able to save.
Because right now, the interest rate is really so low
so low now.
that almost nobody would like to invest, especially even treasury bills or treasury notes. Almost
That's true.
nothing, because almost 1 or 2%. If you could get 3%, that's already very, very big compared to any kind of investment. Is this really disadvantageous to the government?
It's not disadvantageous. First, because they got lower
Yeah,
interest.
lower.
So they were able to save on the interest payments. Plus, they were able to save on, well, in cash management nga, because they did not have to worry about paying out in 10 years. So this was not disadvantageous to the government. In fact, it was done through public bidding, through the normal process. And as I said, more than around 14 banks participated in it.
Were there any government funds used throughout the entire transaction of the peace bond?
We have to separate yung two transactions because the first transaction was the bidding of the treasury bonds. So of course, this was private funds
Private
that
funds.
that government was borrowing. Diba? In effect, those are treasury bonds. Government borrowing from those who bought or bidded for the funds. So when the government received the funds, then it became public funds. When the proceeds from the sale. But the endowment fund of Code and Joe did not come from that transaction. It came from the second transaction, which was when we resold the bonds to the private capital market, and there was a trading gain. So for the endowment fund that I was talking about earlier, the 1.4 billion pesos, that did not come from government. That came from the private capital market.
In the bond, is it really stated that you don't have to pay this withholding 20%?
The BIR said that because the intent was to lend to less than 19 or less institutions, lenders, then under the tax code, this would not be subject to the 20% final withholding tax. So that was before the bidding, that was what was that was the BIR ruling. So of course, everyone, all the bidders,
they will invest.
They will invest and they will price the bonds based on that understanding that it's not subject to the 20% withholding tax. Because if you're told that it's subject to 20% withholding tax, of course you will have a different computation for the bid, right? So when they submitted their bids, it was based on the understanding, based on the BIR ruling, that it was not subject to 20% withholding tax. So that was why the bondholders were up in, they were protesting very much when 10 years later, several weeks or 2 weeks, around 2 weeks before the maturity of the bonds, the BIR suddenly said that, oh no, we're changing our ruling. We're now saying that it should be taxed.
Now, are you satisfied with the decision of the Supreme Court on this particular issue?
Yes, because we think that basically the Supreme Court upheld our position that the BIR cannot suddenly change its ruling, and then which will negatively affect the taxpayers. That's basic. Ano naman daw? Our lawyers told us that's basic. That's a basic rule that you cannot make it retroactive if the effect is against the taxpayer, because otherwise then government can just change its mind anytime and then
So with the decision of the Supreme Court, the investors would now be coming out in the open and trying to look whether these are subject to 20% withholding or not, because usually this is the gray area. They will say this is the gross, this is the net after deducting the 20% withholding. No? So with this, right now, they already won the case with the Supreme Court. What lessons have we learned from these financial transactions?
The basic lesson siguro is that government cannot suddenly change rules, especially when it comes to investment or when it comes to it cannot, when it says something 10 years ago, it cannot say suddenly 2 weeks before the maturity date that, oh no, we're changing rules, and then you have no choice but to comply.
So what happened here is at the end of the term of the 10 years, that was the only time that they are trying to impose the 20% on the interest that was supposed to be given to the depositors already.
Yeah, that's
So it's really a big lesson for especially for private and any government entities for that matter that would like to invest in any kinds of bills like this. And we are happy that the Supreme Court has sided with you. And around how much would be involved here?
Well, what government did was to withhold the 20%, which amounted to around 5 billion pesos.
Yeah.
So that was the amount that was involved. It withheld 5 billion pesos. And then the Supreme Court now said that they have to release that because they withheld it. They have to release it because it's not subject to tax. Plus, they have to pay legal interest on the amount until they fully paid, because they have held on to the money for the past 5 years, despite the government saying, the Supreme Court saying that they should put it in escrow.
Escrow.
They have not done that. Instead, they have held on to it.
So with now they have to add on this
the legal interest,
the yearly interest of around 6%.
6%.
This is the legal rate that are imposed on deposits like this.
Yeah.
So with this, I think everybody now is happy and assured that if you invest in government treasury bills or any kind of bills for that matter, that you will be paid. That is the main lesson that we could learn from this transaction.
That the rules will not be changed.
The Supreme Court has not only ruled on with an order to release 5 billion in improperly withheld taxes, but also documented the peace bond saga in painful details. The experience should never be repeated except as controversy tail in securities and tax law classes. The overriding values in managing our capital markets must be clarity, predictability, stability, boring values that let the investing public sleep soundly. Let us help build our nation. Give your share by paying your taxes correctly and promptly for a better tomorrow. Once again, I am Dr. Victor B. Endriga, and this is Tax TV, a taxpayer's guide to Philippine taxation. Thank you for watching.
For comments, questions, and suggestions on our topic today, you may email us at taxtvph@gmail.com, and Dr. Victor Endriga will gladly answer your queries.